Hello, here you are with Dan in Essex UK. So today I'm going to be unboxing some lovely fruit trees which are in here, and I'm also going to be potting them up. As I stand here in amongst my dormant backyard orchard, I'm a very keen grower of fruit. So you can see here I've got a pear tree here, so things from pears to grapes. Got lots of videos on the subject: permaculture, food forests, backyard orchards, etc. So I'm going to link a load of videos down below which will hopefully be helpful to you. So anyway, before I start with today's video, please feel free to like it, share it with anyone you think may be interested, and if you'd like to be notified of any further videos I put up, please feel free to subscribe. So I ordered these trees about 2 or 3 weeks ago from Blackmore Nurseries in Hampshire here in the UK. Very good company indeed, www.blackmore.co.uk. Had many good products from them in the past. I'm not affiliated with them in any way. I'm recommending them to you because I've had good products from them in the past, and I'm expecting these to very much be the same. So these are bare rooted trees, meaning they're not pot grown or anything like that. They've been lifted out of the ground, and they need to be lifted during the dormant season. That way it's far less stressful to the tree than if you lifted them, say, in midsummer or whatever, when the tree is actively growing. But anyway, let's open it up and see what they look like. Let's start with the unboxing. So that's what we've got here. Well packaged so far, and let's just open them up. Nice bit of cardboard here for the compost bins, that's good. Cardboard being a brown source of carbon, so very beneficial for compost. Whoa, yes. Now they, so far, look very good indeed. They come in 2 packages, so let's snip them like that. And I say 2 packages, two sets of 3 trees. There we are. So look at that. Now, I hope you can see those from there. They're actually looking very nice specimens indeed. Can't see any damaged shoots or anything like that. So I've got a nice variety of trees here. Now you can see there are 6 trees, so 3 are going to be for myself and 3 are actually going to be for somebody else, but I'm going to be potting them all up today. Now I'll tell you what I've got. So we've got cherry variety Sunburst, Victoria plum, and also winter gem apple. Growing mediums in question, so I'm going to be using 50 litres of multi-purpose compost here, so that's about 11 imperial gallons, about 13 US gallons, and 50 litres here of my own homemade compost. So I'm going to be mixing it in this wheelbarrow like this. Nothing too technical. If you're going to be buying some compost, something like John Innes 3 could be a good one, maybe some vegetable compost, something like that, pre-made. You want it to be fertile and well draining. Fruit trees do not want to be sitting in their roots in soil, growing medium, etc. that's poor draining. They really don't like that. So you could put maybe a little bit of sharp sand in here if you wanted. You could consider something like some horticultural grit, but this will be fertile and well draining. So mixed together. What is that? Get that out of there. My own compost mixed with, it's actually home-based brand multi-purpose compost, but I'm not specific on what brand I use. I just like to use home-based compost because we nearly lost our local home-base actually a while ago, and I like to support the people that work there, so that's one reason why I use their compost. So for the case of this potting up today, I'm going to be using 30 litre containers, so that's about 6.5 imperial gallons, about 8 US gallons. Now ideally I'd be using about 50 litre containers. I don't actually have any of those, so I'm going to be using these for the time being. If I choose to leave them in the pots, a little bit of repotting will probably be required, maybe next year or something around that time. We'll start with a cherry tree variety Sunburst. So this is on Colt rootstock, which is actually quite a fair sized tree eventually, but the jury is actually out a little bit on what rootstock should be used for container growing. Some say you should use dwarf ones because if you think about that, it is logical, because the smaller the root wants to get, the better one could consider it would do in a pot or a container. But on the other hand, some people say that you should give the plant the best chances possible in a pot due to the stressful environment of it, water, nutrients availability, etc., and use a half standard rootstock, etc. But this is what I'm going to be using, and we'll start by planting this in here. Now what you want to do is plant it where the rootstock here, so it's actually about there, comes out the ground. you don't want to be having any of the actual rootstock itself buried in the ground. So for example here, that's where I'm going to put it up to, and I'm going to leave probably about 2 or 3 inches, 6-7 centimetres or so at the top of free space for watering. So I'm not going to be filling the pot right up with the growing medium. That looks about right. Want it in nice and firm. Get all the roots in. Don't want roots sticking out the top. And just get a little bit of compost over the top there. Just to weigh it in. And as you do it, you really want to firm it in. Give a nice firm base, if you will, in which to grow from. Nice and firm. Don't want to be leaving air pockets. I do appreciate the growing medium being right up around the roots. As I mentioned before, fruit trees do not like sitting in overly wet, overly soggy, overly damp growing medium. So use a pot with drainage holes in the bottom. That way water can run out the bottom and you'll hopefully avoid drainage issues with your fruit trees. So best practice would actually be to put some crockery in the bottom, maybe some slate or some stones, to stop the roots from growing over the drainage holes. That way you can prohibit, hopefully, the holes getting blocked up with roots and thus contributing to a drainage problem. So you may have noticed I didn't do that here. Now the reason why is because I'm not 100% sure what I'm going to be doing with these trees as yet. So I'm buying myself some time here. So what I'm probably going to do is actually bury the pot in the ground. That way, if the tree wants to, it can put some roots out through the holes in the side of the pot into the ground below, to the side of it as well, so that it can get additional water and nutrients if required. So I'll probably bury it about maybe 1/3 or 1/2, and at the end of the growing season, if I'm still going to keep them there, I can lift the pot out so it doesn't take. If you leave it in the ground like that a few years, or maybe even 2 years, maybe even 1, depending on how vigorous the tree is, you may end up that it actually permanently ends up rooting itself through the pot into the ground. So at the end of the growing season, lift it up and put it back in again. Now, if you're going to be leaving it, say, in the pot, maybe on a patio or something like that, what you can actually do is put bricks. So you can actually put your pot like that on some bricks, and then that way that can leave a bit of space underneath, so hopefully they'll help you avoid poor drainage issues. So mulching around the top of the growing medium can be very important. So you could use something such as wood chip, you could use sawdust, some people use horticultural grit or shingle. Just put it around here and it can be very good for moisture retention within the growing medium, and can be particularly beneficial during summer when the plant will be using up plenty of water, it's hot, etc., evaporation. So it can be a very wise thing to do indeed. So best practice would also be to stake your tree, even if you're growing it in a container. So a stake, a nice sized bit of wood, something like that, and then put a nice little tree tie around it like that, and that can be very beneficial to really brace it, particularly important if it's in an open area, high winds, etc., etc. But you certainly would be a bit annoyed if your 30-pound tree or whatever got damaged or broken in the wind. Down here where the graft is, quite often they can break there, so all you need is a strong wind like that, and then you lose your tree, and that can be upsetting. So a little bit of a staking can help to avoid that issue. Now, regarding which material you should be using for your pot, can be differences of opinion on this. So some may say that you're better off using a wooden pot in order to keep the roots cooler, particularly during the summer when a black plastic pot like this can really attract and hold some heat in there. But some could consider thinking, well, warmer roots could make the plant grow quicker. So make your own decision on that. Also the fact that I already have these containers here. If I was going to use wooden ones, I'd then have to go out and buy them or make them myself out of wood. So that's one reason why I've actually used these. With regards to the use of, say, crockery pots, if that's the correct word, porcelain, clay, whatever, you'd have to be a little bit careful when repotting because you could break them. But up to you really what you use, but I'm using these plastic ones simply because this is what I've got available. The trees are now all planted up. So these are the 3 I'm going to be keeping, and these 3 are destined for another project elsewhere. So with regards to watering, now you want to be keeping the roots lightly moist during the winter. So what I'll probably end up doing is, to a degree, just leaving them to it. I'll gently check the growing medium if we don't get rain for a period of time, just to see it's not totally dry, but generally around here they should be okay, but I will be keeping a close eye on them. Now in the summer, once again, you want to be keeping it sort of lightly damp, not overly wet, but really keep an eye on it, because it really is stressful for a tree if the growing medium dries out too much, particularly when it's cooling upon the water for growing, for flowering, for fruiting, etc. So keep an eye on them. So with regards to watering during the summer, it may even be required, 3 or 4 times a week, depending on where you are, the weather, etc, etc. So just keep a close eye on that. Now with regards to frost protection, so the coldest we got to around here last winter was about -8°C, which is around 18 degrees Fahrenheit. Now I'm not going to be wrapping these pots or anything with bubble wrap or fleece or anything like that. Some people may choose to do that, but I'm confident around here these will be just fine. Now if you're living in a much colder, cooler location, for example maybe somewhere like Canada, where I know in certain places it can get very cold indeed, you want to make sure you're looking around for varieties that will tolerate the climate where you actually are, and you may consider wrapping the pots, as I stated, with bubble wrap or fleece, something like that, just so the roots don't freeze. Feeding. You need to consider that the tree will be getting its nutrients from the growing medium within the pot. So throughout the growing season, something like an organic tomato feed could be a good idea. Follow the manufacturer's instructions, and maybe 2 or 3 times throughout the growing season, an organic granular feed could be a good idea. Once again, follow the manufacturer's instructions. If the plant starts looking a little bit on the pale side, pale leaves, light green leaves, then it may be time for a feed. Anyway, now if you've got any comments or questions or whatever, please feel free to post those below. And as always, if you like my work, please feel free to like it. You could share it with anyone you think may be interested, and you can subscribe if you'd like to be notified of any further videos I put up. As always, thanks for your time. See you in the next video.